Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Conscious podcast. I'm Jessika Klingspor, and I brought this podcast to you to have conversations about inner explorations and sharing stories about insights, real insights based on true stories. And this is the very first episode, so I'm very happy to have Marian Dang on the show. Marian is a founder of Rise Beyond. She's a corporate authentic speech consultant, helping leaders connect with their authentic voices to not only speak with presence and impact, but also to drive collaborative performances of teams. Marian was born in the Netherlands and has Vietnamese roots, coming from a Vietnamese boat refugee background, meaning growing up in two contrasting cultures. Marian faced challenges of being different, not belonging and not being seen for who she truly is. With not having much at home, she learned how to use her voice to connect and communicate with others to create opportunities for herself. This enabled her to live in 9 countries, for work and studies, finished her bachelor and master's with distinction, being a singer and a TV presenter and having corporate careers at companies such as Google and H&M. With her story and extensive experience, she is now driven to use her voice to help leaders to find theirs, to make a true impact as a leader and a speaker in business and beyond. Thank you for being here today, Marian. I'm so thrilled to have you on the very first episode.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and also in this first episode, but also for this very extensive introduction.
Well, you are extensive. So how are you feeling today?
Good, yeah, and very looking forward to have this chat with you.
Yeah, this was, a broad presentation, but I want to get a little bit insight behind the story. Who is really Marian Dang? So if I give you the most tricky question first to tell the audience and to me, who are you?
Wow, yeah. That is indeed quite a tricky question, because how we normally introduce ourselves is by saying our name, what job we are doing, where we live, where we come from. But who we are actually goes beyond that, right? So who are we? How I see it is, what is it that motivates you and what drives you? What gives that little passion, that little sparkle inside of you? That defines also who we are. So if I have to use that, then who I am, I think I'm a creative person, a creative person that wants to collaborate, that wants to work together with others, wants to connect, wants to have ideas and having very clear visions and getting there together with others. It's a bit of a vague definition, but it goes a little bit beyond what job we're doing or where we're coming from.
Yeah. And considering your upbringing and how you came to Europe and everything, as a child, how did you really find your inner voice, first of all? And how did you start to understand how to use it?
I think that was interesting because I grew up in a very, very traditional Vietnamese household. So my mom, when she came from the war, she was so making sure that we kept the traditions and that we kept the Vietnamese culture at home. But when I left the house, it was so Dutch. So my friends were all Dutch. The school system, everything was purely Dutch. And I made sure that I integrated well so that I fitted and that I belong in the Dutch society. But then whenever I was home, it was just purely Vietnamese, thinking about the way how we were dressing, the way what we were eating, even the traditions, the rituals. My mom has very Buddhistic practices as well, so that was very present at home. So how to find your voice as a child? I think when we are exposed to so many different cultures and so many different practices, it is for us to see which ones do we feel very connected to. And that only happens when you get exposed to a lot of different things.
But so you were actually living in 2 realities, because both were reality to you.
Yeah.
But your friends at school, did they see any glimpse of that other Vietnamese girl?
Yeah, well, when you're younger and you don't really understand how it works, but all you want is to fit in and to be normal. So, for instance, when I would have friends at home, I would tell my mom like, "Oh, please don't make like smelly fish sauce dishes because they will notice it and they will maybe think that we are strange." So that is an example of how there were so many of these little things that as a kid you have no idea about. All you know is that, okay, how to be normal, how to fit in. So you think normal is then what the rest of the world is doing. In this case, it was the rest of my friends or the people that I had or my students in school as well. Yeah, so there I wasn't sure yet as a kid how to mix the two and how to integrate the two.
Yeah, I understand. So when did you really realize to when did you get it that you were really proud of actually both having
Mm,
both? And when did you expose that? When did you start to show the world,
mm,
not to dim your light, you know?
yeah, yeah. And that's because when I was younger, I always wanted to be Dutch, actually. So that's why I made sure that I was integrated so well, whether it's at school, with language, with art, with everything I could, in order just to be Dutch. And then I realized with my international experiences when I was living abroad and getting exposed to even more cultures, and then I realized it's so beautiful to have different upbringings or different traditions and cultures because that will make you even more richer. So it only happened in my late adulthood that I was traveling and that I was living abroad that I became to realize, we all have something. It's very precious if we can have different experiences, and that is a strength instead of something that we want to get rid of. It's like how can we use it in order to make it part of us and make it a strength.
Yeah. So what really made you different that you maybe you felt like, oh, I just want to blend in. All of
Mm.
a sudden that changed and it was something that you could be really proud of instead,
Mm.
to
Yeah,
be more rich culturally.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So and your authentic voice was always present. I mean, you're a singer, you're like an artist, but you went to also very important schools to
Mm.
get, you know, like the university and the bachelor degrees and everything. Um, what made you choose your direction? Because you're like an
Mm.
artist and creative person, and
Mm.
then also you
Mm.
went into the corporate
Yeah, yeah.
line. What made you choose? Was it
Mm.
your heritage? Was it the blueprint?
Mm.
You know, we have seven generations inherited in our DNA when we come into this world.
Yeah,
How did you also distinguish was really you and your own choices?
yeah, yeah,
A big question, maybe, but take your time.
yeah. I think so. There are a lot of factors that are contributing to what decisions we make in life, and so I pursued the career side in terms of the business and the corporate. So I've been in the corporate world for like almost a decade, and the reason why is because. I think partly also because of my upbringing. When my parents left the country and they were literally surviving on a little float, like boat refugees, and ended up in the Netherlands. All they were thinking about is surviving. All they were thinking about is how to make money to first of all survive, but also to make a good living for the generations coming up. So including me. And it was no question to do something with art or to do something with your passion. There was not even time to do so. All it was business, surviving, and making a living. And maybe it's also in my Vietnamese roots. They're quite entrepreneurial and they're very business minded that I happen to be good at it as well. And I happen to have a very strong interest for the business side. Yet at the same time, there was something inside of me that wanted to sing, that wanted to express itself, that wanted to creatively express myself. And I have somehow I tried to pursue that path as well as a singer, and I went to music school in London. I did television work for the Netherlands in the Dutch television. But in the end, there was still this like, let's explore the business part first, um, and then it just went on for another decade, being in at Google and at H&M.
Did you go like you got a job straight into the to the big companies, corporations?
Yeah, so I tried before I got into Google. There was still a little like, okay, let's try to see if I can make it in the music scene and in the television scene. And I remembered at that time, I found it. I even told myself it's a little bit of a pity of my master's degree that I've studied so hard and now go into the artistic side. So it was a bit of a deliberate choice to focus on the professional side, on the corporate world, and that is where I then happened to have the job at Google.
But you never lose any of it. I mean, you were born with your artistic gifts that
Yeah,
you can always work on, and then you
yeah,
got your
yeah,
degrees that
yeah,
you can choose whether you want to use them or not.
yeah.
Finding out who you are. I mean, and getting to finding out who you are. At what point in life did you start to define your values, to
Hmm,
really find what is your core value
hmm,
and living according
yeah,
to it?
yeah. That happens. I must say that we all have it very strongly. We all know what is important to us. We all know what we value and what we stand for. Sometimes it gets a little bit blurred or it gets a bit overshadowed by maybe what should be or what society thinks should be, but it's always there. So it is about reconnecting with that again. And most of the times, I think values can change, right? It will change not like the next day, but over the years. So as we are growing older, we value different things than maybe we were in our 20s, 30s. And it is about reconnecting with again what is important to you. There is always a little base. So for example, if you value freedom, or if you value integrity, or if you value authenticity, that will always be there. That's what I believe. It's always there. It's about reconnecting with it again by removing the
Mm.
layers that aren't ours, the layers that we have accumulated over the years. And coming back then, for instance, with the artistic side, even though when I went on the corporate route, so to speak, there was still always something inside of me that wanted to express itself through the voice. And maybe it has been a little bit overshadowed over the past years, but then it came up again. So that's why now I'm doing the work with the voice. And now I'm using it to actually teach others how to use their voices in order to communicate, in order to connect, in order to express themselves.
Beautiful. So, how did you use your voice in your leadership when you were working for Google and for H&M? If I'm not mistaken, you were regional manager for sustainability and public affairs in H&M for South Asia.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
quite
Hmm.
like a
Hmm.
big title for such a young lady
Hmm.
in South of Asia to have
Hmm.
that on your shoulders, and also to make groundbreaking new ways to lead your
Hmm.
teams.
Hmm.
Please tell us a little bit more about that, how you
Hmm.
explored in
Hmm.
H&M.
Yeah, so here again, when we talk about the voice, we everyone has a voice. We use it on a
Yeah.
daily basis, and for most of us, it's a big part of our jobs. For most of us, the voice is a big part in how we generate income, directly or indirectly, right? So directly when we are having sales, a sales job, but indirectly when the way how we are collaborating, the way how we are leading, or the way how we are interacting with stakeholders, and so on. So the voice that I have been using throughout my corporate career, without realizing it, is by facilitating workshops, for example, which was a big part when I was also at Google, but also at H&M. Not only facilitating workshops, but being really the person to go to whenever it comes to sustainability. So whenever it would be for an interview, on a panel talk, on a stage, you have to use your voice to deliver a certain message and to communicate. But it goes a little bit further than that. So how I see authentic communication, it's not only a trick, a little trick and tip of how to use a pause or what kind of tonation. No, it goes a bit deeper. How can we use our voice in order to connect with another person? So basically, see how can we communicate to connect, and that happens when we are connecting with another person. We can actually open up the field for collaboration. And so, long story short, basically, it is using your voice to communicate in order to connect with your, whether it's a team member, whether it's your manager, whether it are stakeholders, and that connecting part, that is what I'm interested in, because that is what is actually what we need, even more so where we are now with everything that
Yes, and
happened.
talking about bringing up this, I wanted to ask you, what is true authentic leadership for you?
Hmm. Hmm. What I feel and believe is that, first of all, we need to know what is important for ourselves as a leader. So, what are your values? Sometimes we are not even aware of what our values are. So, that requires a bit of self awareness. And it can change a bit over time, but there's still this consistency, as I mentioned before. There's some base that has been always important to you over the long run. And then being aware of that, the next step is to be in alignment with your values. So, in alignment, meaning how you act, lead, and speak, if that is in accordance with what is important to you. And then at the same time, when you are in a company setting, every company has a company culture and company values. So here it is also about, is the company acting in accordance with the company culture and company values? And even more so when we talk about sustainability or social impact, it's super good that companies now have it all set out and have like goals and KPIs in order to reach that. But it's also about, is it really integrated and embedded in the culture, in the teams, in the diverse teams as well within one organization?
And how do you experience to work with this in Asia versus Europe? Is there anything that is different from the two continents in
Hmm.
leadership?
Um,
I
well,
mean, H&M, for example, is a Swedish brand, but
hmm,
working in Asia, I mean, how much did you adopt the Swedish culture
hmm,
of leadership? But did you could you translate that into your Asian culture?
hmm,
How did you
hmm,
do that?
hmm. Well, for my personal experience, first of all, what was great about H&M is that even it is a global organization, they managed to have this Swedish culture and Swedish way of working wherever they are in the world, whether it is in Europe, Asia, or in South America. So that is an example of how the company culture was actually being so consistent throughout different countries. But for me personally, growing up in the Netherlands with this very Dutch direct way of communicating, but having a Vietnamese background where it's a little bit more a collective culture meaning more harmonious. You don't really speak out directly as maybe the Dutch culture. That has helped me to understand when I was working in Asia, there are different ways how we can connect with people. So in Asia, it helped that I look Asian, yet at the same time, so I could connect already by
Wow,
my
yeah.
appearance, but at the same time, trying to be direct to solve problems at work, yet at the same time knowing that you have to still be in a harmonious way and more in a collectivist way and more in an engaging way to connect actually with your team members. Yeah, so
So
personally
how
I
did
did
you?
see some differences. Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been the ideal combination in one person, choosing that way of the road to your achievements and career. And how and when did you take the decision to move to Asia and to work there, to leave
Mm,
Europe? You were
mm.
curious?
Yeah, like I said, when I was younger, I didn't want to be Vietnamese. I really wanted to be Dutch. I was all the time, why don't I have like blonde hair and blue eyes? I just wanted to fit in. And only when I got older, so when I was 20, was the first time that I went abroad for a longer period of time. So that was in Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, since then, I just was like, wow, the world is actually my home. I don't want to be in one.
The world is
Uh,
your oyster. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's the the expression, yes. And so it started in Hong Kong, and since then, I just got very intrigued to live abroad and in multiple countries. And when I started at H&M, I wanted to be more closer towards Vietnam. So that's why I actually ended up in Singapore, which was then the regional headquarter of Southeast Asia. And that brought me even more and more closer to my roots and more intrigued with it. And I must say that everything goes when the more we are working on ourselves, the more we are connected with our natural essence, the more we are open to explore where we are coming from. So this didn't happen when I
Absolutely.
was younger, because then I just wanted to be Dutch. And now I'm like,
Of
wow, I want
course.
to explore more. What is the land that my parents are coming from, and what is out there, the history, but also the future of this Southeast Asian region, but especially also for Vietnam.
Yeah. Wow. What a journey. And I'm curious to ask you also this, that because usually at one point in life, when you make a real inner shift, the biggest shift that you can do is when you go inward
Mm.
and you start to be brutally honest with yourself,
Yeah,
and you start to really listen and defining which is my real true inner voice, and how
yeah,
can I speak it out and communicate it to the rest of the world.
yeah.
Can you tell us about one of those crucial moments, maybe life-changing moments in your life, when you realized something to that really catapulted you towards your own truth?
Mm. Um, I would say many, because again, if you feel like you don't belong, and that comes from again when I was younger, then you have to be very, all the time you have these two questions, like, okay, do I do something in order to belong, or do I still stick to what is important to me? And that cultivates over time. And I think a recent example was then that I quit my very good job and move back to Europe and to start my own business in authentic communication. Something that even until last week, a person told me I have never heard of it before. And that is the thing, like, okay, you are quitting a very nice job for in a very nice company with super lovely colleagues, all of that, to do something where people, majority of people have not heard before. They may not understand what it is, and still doing it. That was for me
Yeah, but
quite. Mm,
yeah, but what do you think that was inside you that you pushed yourself to do this jump? Why did you leave that
mm,
safe zone and a prestigious job, and you know
mm,
uh,
mm,
more straightforward, like you jump off this
yeah,
track to find
yeah,
something else?
yeah, yeah, and I don't know if you experience it throughout your life, but there is something inside of us that is really calling us. We can ignore it. We can ignore it. We can
Mm.
pretend it's not there. We can push through. We can hold it on for another, I don't know, year, 2 years. But at one point, even your body starts to show it. So
Yeah,
when we are doing a lot of inner work and self-awareness work, we also get very connected with what is happening in us. It's not only the mind. We tend to believe that everything's happening in the mind, that we're only using our brains, whether it is our whole body that is communicating with us. So that's why maybe sometimes people get sick. It could be a little flu, it could be a burnout, it could be in all different spectrums, right? But all of these things are how the body is communicating with us when we are not in full alignment. And
true.
from yeah, and for me, it happened that I tried to ignore it because everything is great. Everything was great. Like I mentioned, a good job and lovely colleagues, all of that. There was still something inside of me wanted to do something differently for now at this moment. And I started to notice it in I got very tired physically, but also I got like some skin issues like eczema and so on. And it went on until I realized, okay, maybe that is something that I need to look at.
Yes, because what you're telling me, it totally resonates with my own experiences, and it's so very often that we don't listen to the signals that our body is sending to us, because
Yeah,
our body really is our intuition,
yeah, yeah,
meaning how well do we perceive the
yeah,
signals from the body is
yeah,
determining whether we have a good or bad intuition, because our intuition is our body. It never
yeah,
lies. It
yeah.
never lies.
Yeah, and that's why they keep saying how to bring that connection back, the connection between the body, mind, and soul, if we can take it even further, that
Yes,
we have forgotten to be in that connection. In general, that's what
exactly.
I mean with connection is something so important, what I believe nowadays that we need. Connection, whether we are connecting in a business setting, in a personal setting, connecting to ourselves, connecting to the environment, to the nature, all of that. So that is almost the reset factor, or coming back into balance by being back in the connection. And
So, with your experience coming from the corporate on a very high level, and did you feel a calling to change the approach to how leadership and business is done today with a more holistic touch and approach?
I believe that, coming back again to the connecting part, I believe that we can collaborate more. And basically, everything is collaboration. We are not living here on this planet in silos and being isolated. I'm now talking from an individual perspective, but also for organizations and businesses. We all have stakeholders. When we are in a business, even more so. We cannot thrive if we don't collaborate. We cannot innovate if we don't collaborate. We cannot be engaging if we don't collaborate, and all of these things. And especially for the environment, for the society, we need to collaborate. So in order to collaborate, we need to be able to connect again, coming back to that part, because I think that's very important. And connection here, meaning again, connecting with yourself so that you're able to connect with the people you're working with, and then you're able to connect with the wider scheme around you, whether it's the environment or society. So I see there is already a shift going on. If we talk about this inner shift or leader shift, the shift that organizations want to do it differently. They want to see how can they make more of an impact. And that only happens when you feel the connection. If you don't feel connection, then you see yourself separately from everything that you're doing, then there's no need to make an impact. But now if you see yourself being part of the environment, part of the society, then you are motivated to make an impact.
Do you find that leadership and management teams here in Spain are aware of this? Are they working according to these values? Are they conscious about the business, in your opinion?
Well, I moved here only a few months ago, right? So I don't have a full picture of it. What I do see is that there is a shift going on already on a wider scale, not only in Spain, but especially in Europe, but even more in other outside of Europe as well. That whether it is leaders or consumers on a daily basis, everyone is thinking about, okay, what else is there? What more than just going to a job, than just finishing a task, than just doing your own thing? I think there is a need now, and there's this interest in how can we all come together and how can we do a little bit more than just the basic.
Yes, I'm a true believer of that as well, and I see it happening. So when you do your workshops and you're bringing these teams to find their inner voice, how does it work in practice? How just briefly, but how does it work to find your inner voice when you coach managers today?
Yeah. So there are different levels. One, the outside level is really the communication. So how can we communicate in order to make more impact with what we want to say? That could be simple things as how your posture is, or how you're standing, and how you are using the sound of your voice. That we will work on as well, but we work mainly on the inner pillars, so your physical element, the mental element, the emotional, and the energetic, which is actually influencing how you speak and what comes out. So by working on those four underlying elements, it automatically changes the way how you communicate with another person. So that is what I find very interesting as well with the teams and the people that I'm working with, that in the beginning, they would think, okay, they don't see the connection yet, until we work on really those four elements. And then suddenly something changes in how they are interacting with another person.
They put it together to a more whole picture.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, how many of these managers are realizing what a powerful tool they are carrying around, and they are not using it to its full potential?
To its full potential. Yes. Because again, and this is what I would like to emphasize over and over again, the voice is the only instrument out there that is attached to the human body. And it's the only instrument that is making you so unique and authentic, because the frequencies, so sound is just a frequency, right? And your voice is sound, so it is a frequency. everyone has a different frequency. So if you know how to use that in its most potential way, that is how you can make the most impact with the way you communicate.
So I've read somewhere that the authenticity is the highest vibration in the universe. It's
Mm,
actually a higher vibration than love.
mm,
And
mm,
I guess that must be, so if you are true to yourself
mm.
and you are truly authentic and then in love as well, must
Yeah,
be
yeah,
optimal.
yeah. And I must say here that yes, so authenticity, it makes you be at your best because that's the natural state of who we are. If we are able to connect with it, right? And when we are in alignment with it, then we are just in a natural state of flow. We are at the best in whatever we're doing, everything that we are doing, and it just comes naturally. And that is also when we feel the most alive because we are like ourselves. At the same time, it's also a bit scary. It also brings a little bit of chaos because when you are so aligned and true to yourself, what about the rest of the world? Like, what may others think? And is it being appreciated or not? So there's also a lot of fear for being authentic. And if we are able to see
Because they are feared to be judged, you mean?
to be judged, for example, yes.
Yeah.
And but if we all see that authenticity is actually a strength, and if everyone is authentic, it actually lifts up the whole society, so to speak, because it is contagious. So let's say when we are speaking to someone and we can feel, okay, a person is rather like concealing itself or revealing, opening itself up. When someone is opening his or herself up, the other person will feel safe enough to do the same. So both will be in a very natural state of flow, and it will actually
Yeah.
help both.
But you do people dare to be so brutally honest with themselves and to find their own truth? I mean, how can you be authentic if
Mm,
you are not 100% true to yourself?
yeah, 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 yeah. It is. It is. It is not easy because there are so many. We have been primed in a certain way, whether it is through our education, whether it's through the media, whether it's through our upbringing, that it's easier to do what is maybe expected or what is
Yeah.
known or comfortable to you. So it's not very easy to go the other way, like your authentic self. Yet at the same
But how,
time,
yeah. Yeah.
sorry, continue.
Now,
Mm.
now, how could people train on this? How could
Yeah,
they actually, small exercises to find out if
yeah,
I'm really true to myself, or is this a
yeah,
layer that I picked up from
yeah,
family, friends,
yeah,
society?
yeah,
How
yeah,
can
yeah.
is there a maturity test in authenticity?
Not that I'm aware of.
Maybe you can invent it.
Yeah, so the a few things that can be used to just assess, like, okay, where are you, is that the feeling that comes with it when you make a certain decision. It could be that it is comfortable and maybe safe, but you don't feel this expansion or that you're growing. And the other side, with being authentic, it may be a little bit uncomfortable, but there's this feeling of that you are growing, that you are expanding, or this sense of excitement, or this sense of aliveness. So how I see it is that it is that kind of thermometer, if we can measure it, that one is more comfortable, safe, and you feel like you're staying where you are, and the other one is that you feel expanding and growing, excitement, aliveness, but yeah, maybe uncomfortable. And another
Yeah.
way is
But I
to
think we have to train ourselves in the discomfort as well, to
mm,
be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
yeah, 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 and also yeah, I love that phrase, to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because that is actually I feel if we are able to do that, then we are there's no need to worry about anything or to feel
Yeah,
anxious, because in the end we don't really know what's happening in the future anyways. So how to be
it's true.
comfortable with the unknown, how to be comfortable with the uncertainty. Yeah, but I
And is
also
there
think
any exercise you would like to share, just like a quick that people can use before a meeting to
Yeah.
enter in their authentic space,
Yeah.
so that, you know, if you have, I'm going to have a speech, for example,
Yeah.
is there something that I can do before I step up on stage to know that,
Yeah.
okay, I'm clear, I'm authentic?
Yeah. 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 There are a lot of exercises that can help. And so again, then it would be the physical, mental, emotional, and energetic. Maybe a quick one for now, when we focus on the physical part. Right before you go on stage, what always helps, and this is not only for authenticity, it's in general, that always helps to connect again with the body, is by actually standing very firmly with both of your feet on the ground and having your chest forward, roll your shoulders up, back, and down, and that you are standing there and you really feel that there are roots growing from your feet all the way down to the ground. So you have roots growing all the way to the center of the earth, making you standing so firmly. You can still like move around all of that, but being grounded, so that
Grounded.
no one can really like push you over, that kind of feeling. And then bringing all the attention down will also automatically bring your breathing down to to your belly. So when we are going on stage, we get nervous, and that's being accelerated by when we are breathing through the chest. So we need to bring our attention and our breathing to the belly, where you inhale and feel really your belly expanding. And as you exhale, that you feel your belly contracting and your navel goes all the way inwards. And just do that a few times. That automatically brings you in a more calm state. Even your voice will lower down a bit more. Even your pace will be a bit more slower, because it all brings your whole body down to the earth and giving you this grounded feeling. That is one thing. Another thing is that before going on stage, to really remind yourself, what is the intention? Why? What is it that you want to get out of this presentation? And what always helped for me is to focus on connecting. So I would tell myself, okay, I will be on stage, but my intention actually is to be able to connect with the audience. So then
Yeah.
it's not about me. It's not about, oh, I need to say the right words, or I need to deliver the best speech, or I need to come across as knowledgeable. No, actually, all I want is to connect with the audience. And by having that kind of intention clearly before you go on stage, that will redirect your whole way of how you are delivering your speech, and also how you are standing there. Because
Yes.
again, it will reduces your from being in the mind, going more really in the presence in the body. Yeah.
This actually happened once. You were with me in a conference that I was going to have a speech, and I was not feeling so fine that day. I was a little bit feverish, and I was thinking, oh, I wish I was my full potential. And I
Mm.
remember you saying to me that, well, you will go up there on the stage and you will still be authentic and give your best.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this thing to connect with the audience. And that really helped me. I mean,
Mm.
everybody should have a Marian with them when they're going to do a performance. It was
Yeah.
really, key for me. And it just took away
Mm.
all that worry about not being my 100%. They don't even know that I'm
Yeah.
not fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
there are ways to really find your authentic in every mood
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
may be, because we are never waking up feeling the same. We are energy, and the
Yeah.
energy changes.
Yeah.
But it really helped me to find my
Mm-hmm.
core in that during that day. Very
Yeah.
thankful for that.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was so
thank you
cool.
for mentioning it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. And oh, sorry. Mm-hmm. No, I was saying that. So these were little tips, but it is so interesting that it's endless, the way how we are connecting with ourselves, being aware of our whole body, how we stand there, how we communicate, how we speak. It is more of a bodily experience rather than that's something that's happening in the mind. We cannot
Yes.
think our way in authenticity. We just need to be it, right? So that's
Exactly.
another thing. Hmm.
So now you have started this Rise Beyond. It's a new
Hmm.
chapter. It's your
Hmm.
own consultancy in authentic speech. What is the legacy you want to leave to the world with this project?
Mm-hmm. Wow, a few things. One is that, okay, maybe two things. One is that I would like to see the way how we communicate with each other in a more connecting way, so that we are indeed able to be fully ourselves, unleashing our full potential, but also helping others. When we are connecting with others and that spreads out with this ripple effect, we can really collaborate. We can really do good for something bigger. Um,
Yes,
so that is what I really feel: connection, connection, connection. And that starts with being authentic and connected to yourself. That allows you and allows the other person to be also themselves. And then the connection happens and then the collaboration happens. So that is really what I would like to see more on a bigger scale. Also, on the other side, coming from my own background with, like I mentioned, growing up as a Vietnamese in a Dutch small town,
mm-hmm.
that I didn't feel seen or didn't feel heard, but knowing that we have this powerful tool inside of us, the voice, and that can really create opportunities for ourselves. That has
Yes,
enabled, like I said in the beginning, it's so important for your job to use your voice. And for some of the people, it's mostly to generate an income as well. So, how to use this powerful tool for the people that are maybe not so privileged, that are feeling that they are not being so seen and heard, how can they use that to create opportunities for themselves? So
beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful. I'm thrilled to follow your journey along as you conquer new corporate settings, because I do feel that you want to bridge something from outside the corporate space that
Mm,
is a more whole being,
mm,
from
mm,
inner connection to outer connection.
yeah.
You want to say
So
something
so
about that?
yeah, that's what I see it as, that that helps to make something in the corporate world even more thriving, right? So it's not like either this or that. So that's why I love when you say bridging. I don't see it as two different things. I see it as, how can we
No.
use all of the different knowledge, different tools to make something stronger, and by making it a union again rather than separating it. So make it very normal to focus on your breathing during a business meeting, for example. And that helps
Yeah.
you even better to be more focused during a meeting, but also to articulate yourself better and to communicate yourself with connection, for example. So it's all about, yes, how to bring those things together um, to make it even more thriving.
Yes. It's, yeah, and to be brave, because it takes away all the scarcity mindset if you are in line and attuned with all this. It really
Mm,
does.
mm, mm,
So, well, it's such a bliss to have you here on the Conscious podcast. I'm so happy that you wanted to be my first guest, and I want to uh, end this session with one question to you. What is your message to aspiring leaders all over the world? What is it that you would wish to tell them, to bring with
mm,
them into their management and in the
mm,
world today?
mhm, mhm. Um, Coming back to connecting and collaborating,
Mm.
and I really think we can make and do big things if we are all collaborating more. And that starts with connecting, and connecting starts with connecting with yourself first. So knowing what is important to you, being self-aware, that is opening the path for connection and leading to collaborations and having it at the scale.
Yes, and that's a way to really make an impact in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And not only within the organization, but even in between organizations, right? How to collaborate more with different leaders from different organizations, aiming for the same bigger vision.
And why is it important also that we implement art into our worlds, not
Mm,
only after work but also during work?
mm. You know, I was listening to a podcast the other day from a neuroscientist in the UK, and she was mentioning that creativity is actually also a way to survive. So even back in the days, in the tribal ancient times, where it was mainly about survival, there was still a lot of music, a lot of dances, a lot of creative expression, because it's a way for human beings to be innovative, but also to connect with each other and connecting with your own the art that you have inside of you. That in order to express yourself, that leads to new ideas, to innovations, to collaborations, and all and so on and so on. So I feel that that is in the business setting even more important with everything that's happening now. That we need to be a bit more agile, we need to be a bit more flexible, we need to be very innovative and to be creative to find
True.
new solutions for
Yes.
the complexity in issues that we're facing.
Yes,
It's
and to
just
be able to endure, to vision a
yeah,
sustainable and positive future,
yeah,
because that helps. It opens up our imagination too.
yeah, yeah. And then it's not only art, something static, it's having this art mindset almost, or this
Yeah,
art energy or art being. Like um, how can we approach a business problem with this creative mindset, with this
exactly.
artistic uh, energy?
Beautifully ended with this comment from you, dear Marian. Thank you for being on the show, and I'm looking forward to follow your journey
Thank you
into
so
yeah.
much for having me. And yeah, I'm very feeling honored to be on this podcast and to share more about this whole leadership that you're talking about. So for sure, I will keep following you and hear
You
more
are
of the
already
stories.
doing it, the leadership, Marian. Thank you.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
See you